warm good evening to you all on behalf of DSCi and the policy team. So I'm here only to set the context. I think we have already bombarded you all with a lot of emails that what we are going to do at this session. As we all know that with the enactment of Digital Personal Data Protection Act and the rules that is lately notified in November, we all have that how DPDP Act is going to be operationalized. And in that sense, we see that privacy-enhancing technologies can serve that objective of do the processing of data in a lawful manner and continue your business processing. And in that sense, today the dialogue is scheduled between different stakeholders involved in this area, be it data protection officers, industry, privacy-enhancing companies, technology companies working in consent management solutions, so that we can start a healthy dialogue between what are the privacy use cases, which is a kind of a situation before the industry leaders or the data protection officers, and how these situations can be addressed or operationalized through privacy technologies, or we can say privacy enhancing technologies. So I'll give Vinayak sir to set more context on this, but some housekeeping rules and some disclaimers before we go ahead in the session. It is an invite-only session. Whatever we are discussing here is under Chatham House rules, so that we can have candid conversations. We can share our problem statements to the larger audience. We have kept a very brief presentation on privacy-enhancing technologies just to get a sense that what technologies are we talking about till date and how these are supposed to be evolved. And of course, after that, we are going to open it up for the room so that you can present your problems, and if somebody is already addressing those problems or implementing the solutions, they can share the solutions with the larger room. Though you can see a cameraman and a recording at the back of this room, this is for our internal purpose so that we can make an outcome document or something actionable from this conversation. This is not going to be posted anywhere, and nothing is going to attribute it to any industry people. So with that housekeeping rules, I'll call upon stage Mr. Vinayak Godse, CEO DSCi, to come over and share the vision of this session and an opening remark for this session. Over to you, Vinayak sir.
Thank you, Deepa, for setting up the context and setting up those housekeeping rules as well, because such conversations require such rules as well. Thank you, Srinivas, for this idea, and also Deepak sir for pushing us to do something on this. And because I know Parliament session is on, and I know how difficult it is, we get some small share, but he gets bigger share of that, and still he found time and travel to this evening time from Delhi to this part is not easy. And thanks Vikas for coming in. And so this session is a testimony. Now we are thinking about implementation. We are thinking about, we gone ahead now after defining rule, defining the timeline for that. It's now time has come to take privacy for actual implementation, and implementation has, if I see the subject of privacy, there are 3-4 interests that comes into picture, right? So one interest is certainly a business interest who want to work, and sometimes, and we were there in one of the government organizations recently, and we realized how difficult it is, right? So because economy is structured that way. Not only private, but also government ecosystem, public services, and overall digital economy that we talk about is structured on the basis of this unbundling of the processing, right? And this unbundling is what I come from telecom, so I know that word very well. But this happened, right? Unbundling of transaction processing happened in this country, and sometimes because you wanted as an organization, individual organization, but many times also government also pushed it, right? Means not only us, but across globe. I was happy to see when OECD talked about DPI. They recently published a paper on digital public infrastructure as a way to digitize the global economy, basically, right? So because we know that the entire ecosystem has to work to deliver that 20% of what we say now digital economy, right? And that's why organization needs to work together. There are a lot of interests. One key interest is certainly competition interest, which needed data to be shared. There is also innovation interest, where big organizations need to share data with the startups. Basically, there is also public interest where government want that data. For example, we just discussed on digital health session. Just now we completed that, where sharing of those data will deliver a lot of public value, right? Basically, right? The way the structure and evaluation happened in the recent past is in terms of be it any sector, financial, health sector, aviation sector, even for that matter, who thought we are talking to energy companies. And why would they talk about DPTP implementation? Because we use them as an instrument to deliver that benefits, right? They are one of the key instruments for delivering the benefits, right? And all the gas companies are delivering those benefits to the public, basically, right? So if you structure economy like this, so then you want to achieve the goal, right, of a economy, and economy digital part of that, and more likely incoming intelligence for that matter will achieve all those good citizen experiences. It will achieve the productivity, it will achieve the new possibilities basically, and this experience productivity possibility if you have to achieve, you need to keep doing that much better, right? And when you have to do that better basically, right, there are challenges, and this is an interest, right? So people and big interest group which want things to happen, which want things to go. That's a big interest group, right? Basically, right? Second interest group here is somebody who want to manage things better for privacy, because we know privacy is a largely two liabilities. One is procedural liability. Things needs to be done in a particular way because that is how you prove yourself as a legitimate player, collection and processing basically. So this procedural expectation. So they want to manage things better so that any point in time they will prove that key procedural all things are taken care of basically, right? There is somebody which is worried that if something goes wrong, it will create big problem for me, 250 crore rupees. For example, there are fine for specific thing. If you fail to do that, it's big fine. So somebody is worried for that fine, that reputation for that matter, right? Somebody is worried for actually governing this much better, right? Because this goes beyond, right? The reputation of the organization goes better. So these different interests comes together when you talk about actually collection and processing information, right? And these three different interests can be categorized into three different areas, basically, right? One is the management, and that's the privacy management. It can be done in procedural way. It can done by best practices. You can set up a process. You can have people for that. But there is a technology you can use to manage things better, to make sure that every procedural expectation you solve by technology. For example, consent, you use consent manager to make sure that every purpose, the specific purpose you are taken consent basically, and manage in a such a way that you can demonstrate that procedural expectation and obligations basically, right? But there is another group which is helping you to govern this better, because it's not only one process, one engagement. There are so many different ways you bring information, you share information. So that's why you need to have overall view of a privacy, right? So that's a privacy governance, and you can do typical putting effort, putting people, but there is a technology which can help you to govern this better, basically, right? But there is a very interesting thing which is important, is those people who want to make things happen, and they still want to comply with privacy. They don't want to really breach the expression of privacy, basically. That's where the real challenge comes in, basically, right? And probably the privacy enhancing technology, although management governance can also fall into privacy enhancing, but privacy enhancing technology could really help you achieve. The possibilities can be realized by privacy enhancing technologies, basically. And there are a lot of interesting ideas, anonymization, cryptography, homework encryption, zero knowledge proofs. There's so many interesting ideas, and I'm happy to see there are a lot of startups in India which are trying to do that. If you have to really make it possible for billions of transactions, I met a startup in Pune, for example. They are helping one of the big bank and even RBI for that matter to take care of almost billions of transactions per day, and solving problems of security, privacy, and data access in that basically, right? So how do you make it possible? And this is the area where a lot of interesting challenges on the way, and these challenges needs to be dealt with basically. And this is what discussion I had with Deepak sir and his team, that how do we make sure that we have focus agenda on this particular part, right? And government of India's approach is not only putting regulations and leaving you for compliance, right? It's a very proactive, engaging approach, basically, right? And solution-driven approach, basically, right? And that's why Mighty, you must have seen, this is a law which we have seen kind of broad consultation happen. This is law where we see active engagement from government, like making it sure that you really enhance, improve the way the privacy has been implemented in the countries basically, right? And there are a lot of interesting initiatives are coming in this direction. This is one of the key interesting critical initiative where we want to deliberate, understand technology, role of technology basically, both management, governance, but more importantly for uh, making it possible for you to work on data basically, right? And that needs also to deal with the different kind of issues and problem, and that's what Deepa talked about. Bring your problems, issues, so that we can deal. And but largely, mentor discussion mostly technology centric. This is not discussion to discuss about. That's what we would like to do. And okay, we want to make sure that how technology can solve it. This is actually technology discussion today. One important thought I want to really keep it. So we say data is our oil, and somehow we are also struggling with that basically, right? There are a lot of how do you harness that oil basically, right? And some people don't like data as oil as a concept itself basically, right? Because a lot of new implementation we did in a country. Take an example of Digiyatra, example of ONDC for that matter. There are so many such examples that we deployed. We deployed them in a more data blind way. For example, Digiyatra doesn't have data, their own data, right? Because we know that they don't centrally store data. ONDC says there's a data blind. So there is now challenge, right? Ki while you do such implementation like this, then you don't have ability to use that data to do possible other things basically, right? And we have been dealing and engaging with this kind of organization. Ki how can you really still make that possible basically? Is there a way for us to do that basically, right? Unless we find a way, because there are a lot of articles I am saying ki how can we make our index data for doing all of this AI, and most of this data are structured data sitting in the databases, mostly at least current implementations are largely, most of them are data blind implementation basically. So this could be one area. I'm not sure whether we'll be able to discuss in this discussion today, but there are a lot of interesting areas, some subject sectoral issues that we can deliberate. That is what we expect in this particular interaction. And with this, I welcome you all. Thank you, Vikash, Srinivas, and all of you joining today and really helping us to carry this discussion. And the discussion, as I really talked about, let's make it more technical in nature. Thank you again.
Thank you, Vinay. And now I would request Vikasa to take the stage and share his vision and Neti's vision on privacy enhancing technologies, because this session is largely supported by Meti as to how DPDP can be implemented at a large scale.
Sounds scary when somebody says Meaty supported, because when DSCi says supported means it's something else, but we just given only logo support. No financials. Seniors are here, Rama ma'am is here, Rakesh sir is here. And most of the familiar faces are here, so it's not a monologue. I believe that there should be a dialogue here. But PET is something where I was just thinking on the way, what should I say, then I feel that one thing is surviving for an organization. Surviving means doing the compliance which is needed as per law, and you comply to the law and still continue to process. But when you want to innovate and consider DPDP, then PET is an answer. So that's where, so to bring new thing as offering, not as noise, but new thing as offering, then PET would be something which will play a lot. Interesting, as government we see it at multifaceted thing. One thing I see at forums like this, a lot of emphasis on startups who are offering this, very good. I would also, as government, my responsibility is also to bring some light to a lot of open source content available on this, open source algorithm available on it, and you have huge IT teams. So as government, I say that you can explore something. Yeah, okay, is it okay now? Yeah, thank you. So that's what where I feel personally that a lot can be explored by individual organizations, their IT teams in their processes, because you know your business. I myself have worked in consultancies, so I would say consultant telling you what your business could do, probably you know better. And in that capacity, if you know one open source and then you know your business and try to plug in for any innovation. That would be probably the way forward. And I feel that I have myself seen security growing as a core thing, as he was saying, as a module that you said decoupling or something, no? Yeah, so that decoupling as one module added as security and as being the base benchmark before anything new which you start today from, I'm in this whole thing from 2010 roughly, so in 15 years I've seen that security evolving. The similar fashion, I believe that privacy will also evolve. And in that capacity, I feel pets will play a great role. But I also feel that a lot of awareness is needed. Whenever we talk of pet, because probably some people have early mover advantage, pet is considered as something very, very complicated. But I feel that if you see open source, there are solutions for everything. So in that sense, this is a very community-led effort which basically mathematically originated from mathematics, and hence it is publicly available. Like all your encryption algorithm, in the similar fashion, most of the things are publicly available. So from there, you can pick some ideas, you can engage people, and this industry will grow. That is my idea. And as very familiar faces are there, I don't want to keep talking about it, but I'll be here for any sort of solution. From government side, as a large agenda, we are also thinking what to do, but we are thinking on investing a little of resources on the core fundamental research on the academic side. We are trying to see what possible ways we can promote startups in this ecosystem. And to me, as I see that this is a long-term game, I would probably invest quite substantially in awareness, because once we make people aware, then people find out the way. So that is what my personal belief is, and probably will progress with this. But it's very interesting if you really start reading about pets, not in terms of from somebody else, go onto the base textbook, as you say, no? So if you go to a real technical thing, if you see how FHE works and how it operates on an encrypted data, it is very fascinating. And that if that interest comes into the education system, to awareness to our people who are just starting their careers, I believe in 5 years or 10 years, we will see a lot of solutions coming, so if I'm an engineer employed by an organization and I know pets, I'd probably, to prove my worth, I will offer something. So that's where also one startup works. If I'm not been offered a job by a company, then I'll make a startup on this. So in both ways it will grow once my students know it, once my awareness happens around it. But a lot of awareness is needed even in the very, very educated, so-called educated or knowledgeable class, I feel. Because pets is something, once you know the like physics and chemistry of it, then you do talk about it, it is interesting. So I invested around 7-8 days at an IIT. I said, first let me know it and let me absorb the wonder it can do, and then only I should talk about it. So I was preparing before the rule happened, and the rule was delayed for so many reasons. When she said lately, it was like koi thana de raha hai. But then I said, no, lately means recently. So in English, lately means recently. So, sorry, वो industry hazard होता है ना, when you work in a chemical industry, you are exposed to that. So that even this simple English lately sounded like, oh, okay, they're saying late. But no, it's my perception. So you said with very honesty, but to me it was sounding like that. So a lot can be done, I believe, and let's be more in a conversation mode, and let's try to say it. A lot of problem statement when we were thinking how it could actually be resolved, or what would be the starting point. Talking is good enough, but then we thought, okay, if somebody comes as a company, then Srinivas volunteered that yes, they can also offer some use case, and then somebody trying to solve it. So some mechanism has to evolve. We don't know what is the exact mechanism, but we are also exploring. But as MITI, as DPDP, we say that we have strong trust on pets, that this will be the deliverable for DPDP. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas sir. I think Vikas sir has set the stage for Srinivas already. So Srinivas, as one of the earliest DP of the country, who has already like implemented pets in some sense while he was dealing with EU GDPR and other global data protection laws. So I just call him over the stage to share his vision that how does he see privacy evolving in country like India with the enactment of DPDP. With no offense, like we generally appreciate that for a country like India, having a DPDP law in itself is a huge achievement, and we congratulate Meti for that. So Srinivasa, please, over to you.
Even when you will progress in your career, you will not say country like India, so country of the scale of India.
You'll add adjectives.
Like India sounds like late to me.
Thank you, DSCi. Thanks, Vikas and Vinayak, setting the context. First of all, I want to make sure that this session, everyone has opportunity to speak. So this is not a forum where only 2-3 of us speak. So we want to hear from all of you on how to embrace pets more. I'll just set the context because of my exposure to some of these, both from the work experience and being in the standards body. First, we should think about why pets are important. What is the reason? I mean, just because everybody is talking of this thing, it came from, of course, privacy by design. The rationale for pets is not because they are available or it's a fancy thing everybody is talking about, but we need to understand, and when we talk of pets, there are largely 2 buckets. One which are addressing the governance part, I think you also touched upon, management, governance, which help use technology to facilitate the operations of privacy. Could be consent management, could be on metrics, tracking, log management, etc. The other part, which is more important when I talk of pets, is the one where they are essential in order to achieve the right balance between privacy and all other kinds of requirements or compelling needs that organizations and governments face with today. What are they? There are a plethora of them. Freedom of expression, right to information, surveillance, ability to track fraud detection, monitoring of emails, monitoring of calls. We hear about apps which are essential for various needs because yesterday only, last 2 days, you would have seen an app being talked about. Similar apps were there. They're all intended to benefit the larger society for achieving a very important purpose of safety, security, and ability to keep criminals away from the society, all that stuff. So but in order to achieve that, we often disregard privacy because of lack of technological mindset. So if you look at this or that, it will not help. I think the most important for us as privacy professionals is to, when these solutions are developed, to help them through privacy and pets to make it a positive sum game where we embrace both. So pets help us in achieving all those principles other than governance. Principles like data minimization, including security, right, all the rights that about not right to be forgotten, all that stuff, including your unlinkability, which is often not talked about. Purpose limitation. Unlinkability is not a principle, but remember it's a very, very important attribute in privacy, which is about not being able to link various databases and for people to figure out what they're doing. And that ability that today's technology gives itself is a very, very big threat for privacy. And while it is beneficial in the context of digital marketing and many other use cases which are beneficial, we also have the risk of privacy being intruded when you cull these databases together to draw rich profiles which could be used against you, benefit of you both. So our role is to see that bring these pets in order for people to achieve this right balance. And many of the pets, unfortunately, are at still nascent stage. And that will happen because just like security encryption tools are getting developed, many of these are dependent on cryptographic technologies and they're computationally heavy, and our role is to promote the use of them. So I was suggesting that in this session, there's a triangle actually. There is the government, or let's say data protection board, not Vikas, but the board which will get set up under MeitY. There are stakeholders which are industry consumers, all of us, companies which require to implement these DPDP and various laws to promote balancing between privacy and innovation. The third one is the startup companies or companies which have to come up with the pet products. And why not in India? Many of them are in India today. In this room also, many of them are present. So our role is this, to see how we collaborate between these three stakeholders to make it happen. Now, largely, there are different ways to classify. I think some of the pets they touched about, for instance, every organization has put it. One of them is OECD. OECD, I think you would have read about it. UN has come up with pet guide. Largely, they are classified into obfuscation category, which is, you can say, data minimization, obfuscation, which is related to anonymization, differential privacy, zero knowledge proof, and things related to that, which completely doesn't eliminate the need for information, but they reduce the extent of information and in a manner that the ability, the linkability comes down. So zero knowledge proof is excellent. Actually, zero is a misnomer there. It's actually data minimization, it's not zero. But you have three actors: individual, prover, and verifier. They act in such, and there is obviously non-interactive and interactive ZKP, but you work in such a manner that there is absolutely no trace of who made this payment, let's say, or the person who went to buy a particular, let's say somebody goes to buy alcohol, they have to prove they're above 18. You don't need to show your iCard. Today we end up giving iCard or show the iCard. There is absolutely no reason. There are payment apps. There are so many apps that are coming up where the ability to trace comes up. So all that abilities can be completely reduced if we use optimal use of such technologies. There is also tokenization, which is more on security. There is also self-sovereign identity, which is what Europe is implementing. It's called digital identity wallet, which gives, it's actually decentralized, although government sponsored, but it gives the ability to not have the traces, but yet you can establish your identity. Can we think of those lines? There's a slight difference on data banks, data stores, which are variant of this, where you can actually store, instead of you having your credentials in 30 different websites or apps, you can have entire your credentials here in your own laptop or in your smartphone. And the website, when you go to the website, comes and checks here and says you are Srini and you have access to this. So you don't have 50 accounts. All the accounts are here. That's the concept of data bank. So all these technologies we could explore at different stages. Some of them we require government help also. The other is encryption. They spoke about homomorphic encryption. SMPC, which is used in the context of when you share data with vendors, how do you see that none of them can figure out what is the data, input data, but together they process the data and the main data controller, fiduciary, gets it. Now, this is very important in Indian context because processors are not liable. And therefore, the entire burden comes on fiduciary. So the minimum, the data you share, you put SMPC-like technologies, it will be beneficial for you, although contractual safeguards are also required. Then there is systems which are related to distributed learning and federated analytics, federated learning, which are familiar, mainly used in the context of AI, which are very useful because they are not anonymizing data, but they are minimizing the risk by keeping, it's like edge computing. You learn from the node rather than centralized learning. The last category is accountable systems, which are governance, all that stuff which we do on how to faster improve efficiency, in which you also have other technologies which like threshold, secret sharing, etc., which help you to implement ability to get minimum data by having a mechanism by which you can have 3 to 4 keys or 3 to 4 passwords, not one password, but there is a multiple stages of password, something like a bank locker where you have 2 keys, you have 3 keys, 4 keys, you can agree upon, 4, n equal to 4, 5. We say these 4 keys are required, only then you can open the locker, otherwise you can't see the data. So this is how a variant of SMPC. So all these technologies are evolving, and I think our role is, and this, you can keep on innovating, you can blend all these technologies together to make pets based on what use cases. So our role is to define here the use cases. Some of it, I think some of the people are going to cover use cases, and I would like all of you to also bring out the use cases, speak during the session, and some of us know the technologies we can suggest, and here are some of the companies which can start, they can go back and think of how to bring those on the table for commercial viability. So this is the context setting I want to do, and let's make it very interactive. We can add as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One last interaction and address maybe. I would request Abhilash from PrivacyPin to just come up and share a very brief presentation on what technologies are we talking about, and after that we'll open for discussions.
We have to come back though, right?
you so much. It is an honor to be here, and this is most like a family. I think this is most of the people here we have interacted a lot, so happy to be here. And this is representing most of you in the process as one of the startup in this ecosystem. And DSCi has been doing a great job. We have started the journey with them 5 years ago in the area of pet, and then it has been 5 years now. I can't imagine. And India is definitely creating a new path in terms of unlocking the data of 1.4 billion people the right way. Now we had inspiration from Rakesh sir. When I quit the job, he guided me, and then now Deepak sir, Vinayak sir and all, it has been a great support. And this is a right ecosystem. India is taking a different path than EU, than China, and this is a very meritorious path, we believe. And this path, as Prime Minister Modi said in Paris, the techno-legal route of unlocking data. India is first data rich, and that is going to make people actually rich. And for that, PET is going to play a very, very important role. And I'm very proud that we have such a great act in place, especially 61A, 61D on continuous processing beyond CAA is like really mind-blowing. So with that, we'll probably go into it. It's more of a conversation. We will have subsequently, I think they will set up the conversation. But yeah. So we will cover, it's generally very difficult to speak after Srini. He covers most of the tech part. So we'll try to quickly go through what the content that we are going to quickly go through is. Why is a pet use? Why, what, how? Then primarily the objective is on the use case. At the DPDP level, what kind of use cases are there? Then at across industry level, what kind of use cases can be seen? Then at the industry level, there are use cases, and then I think that's where Deepa will open it to the conversation. Then there are some myths. We'll discuss about the myths and realities and how adoption of pets can happen, and then I think then we can have open floor conversation. Next slide, please. Yeah, next one. So one very fundamental thing that I think Srini also touched about, and then Vinayak sir also spoke, and then Vikas ji also spoke about is security and dissociatability. We spoke about linkability and dissociatability. So we are all aware of the security side of things, which is data at rest and transit is covered by security, where there is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We are aware of all this. Next. What is happening now is data in use, whether it is for data sharing, data analytics, or AI, it is going to be data in use protection, and that's where privacy technology comes in, privacy enhancing technology come in, which basically includes dissociatability, predictability, and manageability. The triangle, and we'll discuss about the triangle. Next slide. Yeah, just, so this is, next. Yeah, so this is dissociatability means, as Srini was saying, how can you de-link the data from the individual? And how can you prove it mathematically? How can you ensure mathematical guarantees in that? How much can you dissociate the data from the individual is dissociatability. Then predictability is, can you do it in a predictable way? Can you configure it? Saying that, okay, epsilon should be this, delta should be this, something like that, any measure, k value should be this, t value should be this. So can you give a value to this dissociatability? It's not just blind masking or blind removal of PII, but can you provide a metric to dissociate it and control the dissociatability is the predictability part. And in the process, you manage it predictably. The utility from that should be predictable and should be manageable. So you should be able to dissociate data from an individual. The output from that should be predictable, and the privacy, that is the dissociatability and the utility, both should be manageable. So you should have a knob with which you can say that, okay, now I want more utility, lesser privacy, something like that. And that should be mathematically provable. This is the foundation of privacy enhancing technologies. When you have this, then it is PET. And it's a spectrum. There are different technologies with different capabilities, but that is basic foundation. And this is from NIST. NIST privacy framework is basically setting this context. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the details of what we just discussed about, and this maps to identification, governance, communication, protection of the NIST framework. This is directly in the NIST framework, which came in 2020. This is where it is grounded. Next one. Yeah, now we'll go into the use cases. Now, so this is a map of DPDP and how it applies to various aspects, and how the data flow, when the data starts to flow, how it connects to privacy. Right, privacy enhancing technologies. So while we take notice, give notice, collect consent, understand the risk, do DPIA and DPR from the user. This is the governance part. But once that is done, the data comes in, and 61A, as per 61A, it is still personal data. When it goes to 61D, which is continuous processing, beyond CAA compromise, is where it gets into the 17(2)(b of the exemption clause, where you have statistical or archiving and other purposes for which you can use the data. That is basically where pets come in. So you have provability of unlocking the data, and it becomes unrelatable to a large extent. And thus, it gets into the exemption area, and that can be used for data sharing, model training, archiving, cross-border transfer, etc., because it is not relatable anymore. And as per the 2T of the Act, personal data is that which is directly identifiable or relatable. Now, directly identifiable is easy because PII is directly identifiable. The problem is in the relatability part. How do you quantify the relatability? That's where Srini told about management pet also can result in management. So you can do things like privacy threat modeling, where you can do attack simulation and understand what level of relatability is present in the data. Like singling out attack, linkage attack, inference attack, outlier attack. This is the source of HIPAA privacy rule and the whole story of breach from HIPAA. What is the level of relatability of the data determines what is the level of personal data it is. And then the mitigation of it then subsequently goes in. So when you do this, and especially when it is beyond CAA compromise, is where the dissociatability, predictability, manageability comes. So when you have PET tools, as per NIST framework, you need to have these attributes of dissociatability, predictability, and manageability. When that is there, then the data becomes exempt, and then it becomes like, it becomes an accelerator for the data to be used in multiple purposes. Next slide. So this is what Srini covered. I will not, the OECD, this is standard. I am happy that you had mentioned the same, the obfuscation, encryption, federated distribution, and accountability. So this is standard. Like now, he has also mentioned it, I also put it. So this is like a standard, and these are various technologies. Next one. Now, from that, there is, if you have a framework, it is much more easier for you to interpret. So if you put a y-axis of querying to sharing, when I take data and give it to somebody, it is sharing. If I am querying a DB, right, it is querying, where you get smaller chunks of data. Interactive, non-interactive. And the x-axis is input pets to output pets. Input pets are more cryptographic in nature. It is called input pets because even the intermediary results, the processor will not be able to see the data. For example, let's say homomorphic encryption output, right? You will not be able to see what the output is. It has to go to the party who actually encrypted it so that you can see what the result is. While the compute will happen, but you will not be able to see the result. So that is an example of input pet. Output pet is the output which comes out, for example, k-anonymization of the data. Everybody will be able to see, but you will not be able to relate it back to the individual. So that is the spectrum. So technologies, when you look at it, for example, in this quadrant, you will get technologies like k-anonymity, t-closeness, differential privacy, synthetic data, and the risk quantification can happen with privacy threat modeling. Next. In terms of querying, you have things like differential privacy querying, where there is a database. You query what is the number of COVID patients in this zip code. So it will add some noise and give you some data, which is privacy protected. So here it is queried result, while on top it is anonymized data. So that's the difference. Similarly, synthetic prompts, if you're interacting with a large language model, you can put prompts, you can do synthesization and then share. Then you have federated learning, and something very important as well is consent-based privacy control. Now that is very important because you will have to connect consent to the flow of data, because without that, consent to, let's say a customer withdraws consent for something, but the flow is happening and call center is still calling the customer, then that will result in a breach. So it has to connect and it has to flow and it has to mitigate across the ecosystem. Right, next. So on the querying side, on the cryptographic side, you have things like private set intersection, where there are two parties who are having data, let's say a bank and an insurance company, they want to identify common overlapping customers without actually giving data to the other party. So that's where PSI comes in, and then without actually giving data, you will be able to say that, okay, these are the parties who are common. And like Srini said, SMPC, secure multi-party compute, when you want to do addition or you want to compare who are common, you can do things like those. Similarly, pseudonymous inferencing, where you are sending data to a downstream large language model, let's say OpenAI, and that's a big problem today. People are putting a lot of data, employees are putting a lot of data which is going to OpenAI. You have to protect sensitive information, because tomorrow when user asks in the DSR, like where and all my data have gone, you would say OpenAI, but OpenAI will not respond back to you saying where and all they have used the data. Probably they have trained a model. Then it will become a much difficult problem to delete it. So pseudonymous inference is a very important area in inference part. Then threshold cryptography, once again you can say like 4 parties should come together to mitigate the risk. Next one. Yeah, this is then ZKP, which is input but while sharing, like blockchain, where a lot of information are present in a ecosystem. Verifiable claims, self-sovereign identity that Srini spoke about, FHE, and confidential compute, where you put bulk amount of data, some compute happens you don't see, but the output of it you don't know, right? The output may still be violating privacy. So each of these technologies will protect privacy at certain level. It may not protect privacy at certain level. For example, confidential compute, while it protects the liability of the cloud provider, say AWS or Google, that they will not see the data, but the output of the data can still be privacy violating if it just goes to a downstream party. So probably at the output you will have to put something like differential privacy, and then the data will go to downstream party. So this is the broad perspective. Next. So as per the regulation, there are 2 pathways. One is licensed consented use. The other one is continuous processing. Continuous processing isn't like direct sort of exemption, because by means of consent it is limited processing. Limited time, limited processing. Continuous processing is broader, and in continuous processing it is beyond CAA, confidential integrity availability. That's where PETs come in. This is general understanding, probably, because you can correct. So this is the broad perspective. Yeah, just couple of, yeah. So these are these 2. So you can look at data protection from 2 perspectives. One is consented processing. Wherever user has given consent and you are processing it is consented processing. Continuous processing is wherever it is beyond consent, wherever you want to share data, then it becomes continuous processing, for which you have to use PETs, right? Yeah, I think we're pretty close to sort of completion. So when you don't do it and the data flows, it becomes risky. Next. So typically you collect consent, you do discovery, do DPIA, and then do mitigation, various kinds of mitigation depending upon the flow requirement in your ecosystem. It can be anonymous, pseudonymous, synthetic, differentially private. And then if it is personal, for example, pseudonymous is still personal data. So that you can do like something like consent-based access control and unlock data for data usage and unlock data for AI usage. So it's a broad perspective. We'll just go into some industry use cases and we'll open it up. Yeah, this is industry use cases, the last section. Next. Yeah, so this is a comparison. So there will be 4 or 5 slides, which are comparison between non-PET scenario and PET scenario. So let us say you are giving data to an application developer. Production data, if you give, it is a risk. So when you mitigate it with synthetic data, then it unlocks the data. So similarly, when you, can you, yeah, just a minute, I'll just close it. Yeah, so these are scenarios where, for example, if you do, okay. So there are multiple scenarios. For example, differential privacy, if you put differential privacy in between, then that will solve the problem. Similarly, if you do consent-based control in flowing the data, that will solve a bunch of problems. Next one. If you are giving data for analytics, you can anonymize the data and give it to analytics. In the normal scenario, it may result in breach, but when you have implemented PET, that will not result in breach, so that will solve the risk there. Next one. Yeah, if you are giving data to third party rather than giving actual data, you can allow differentially private querying of data so that the data is not breached, so it will result in protection. Next one. Similarly, AI, as we discussed earlier, if there is OpenAI, you are sending data to OpenAI, that becomes a problem. But if you put something like a firewall which will do pseudonymous inferencing, that will solve the risk of data getting breached and going to a downstream party. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhilash, for giving a brief insight on what pet technologies are. While Anahida is opening on the use cases, I think better it's to like open up for audience. So while you are asking a question or you are sharing a solution, whatever it may be, just give a brief intro. What's your name and what is your organizational affiliation, and we can continue the conversation. So please raise your hands, and my team will give mics wherever they are. Yeah. So we can start with a problem statement, maybe like.
I'm Aditya and I'm from SEC Online. So one use case that I have in mind is, let's suppose we talked about the cloud service providers. If we are hosting some data which is outside India, so that extraterritorial transfer, like whatever privacy enhancing technology one might employ there, but if a notification comes later on that one cannot store data in that particular country where the CSP is, then what does one do?
Any responses? Or Srini, you would like to take it?
There are technologies, there are plethora of them. Some are focusing on security alone, like we have Citrix and those things, but that grossly constrains your ability to actually handle the data. If you want to play around, deploy in your environment with tools, that's difficult. But otherwise, we use that kind of stuff. And SMPC, secure multi-party computing, is again a cryptographic technique where you can use cryptography to distribute in a way that the end result will come, but none of them will know the input data. So that is one more technology which is little computationally heavy.
So does it also ensure the smooth withdrawal of data if I were to withdraw that data from the particular country where I'm not supposed to store it?
See, those withdrawal of data has to be based on your contractual understandings, subject, of course, the country's laws. And that's how when Europe came up with, as a reaction to Schrems 2, the EDPB published supplementary guidelines, which asked you to do something called TIA, Transfer Impact Assessment, which requires the data controller, here fiduciary, to do an assessment of the importing country to see that their laws, do they restrict your ability to be informed, to handle it, all that stuff. So such safeguards, I don't know what India's,
exactly,
we don't have
because
clarity
India,
from
we
India.
don't have a provision for the contractual safeguards or the binding corporate rules when it comes to subsidiary transfers.
Right, but my view is that minimization is to be achieved. So depending on the context of processing, you should use different technology based on how much exposure to in handling the data is needed. So there's no one solution for that. Even the Europe stopped by saying these are only indicative guidelines. They said encryption with key being in Europe, pseudonymization, various things you could do by keeping the key isolated from the country which imports. So those are some of the safeguards.
I see.
And people can add, I mean. But any answers for this? Any more answers?
First of all, quickly, how many paid product providers here in the room? Please raise your hand. Well, first, thank you so much for staying invested. It's almost 2 years, and I know all of them. Whenever I used to meet, there used to be a question mark on their face. Mere rules kab aayenge? Okay, final rules have come. Now I see the question marks on the other side. Implement kaise kare? Okay, so I have some questions, and please, Bhavna, please allow me to ask those questions because I've collated these questions talking to some of you in the group already. My first question is, there is clearly mentioning that e-commerce, after 3 years, and if there is an active user account, you have to delete the data. Anyone from paid providers would like to take this up? How do you do data? What are the data deletion techniques? Data deletion is part of paid, major part of paid. It's one of the most difficult principles to implement.
data deletion, right? Would you like to take that up? Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't have that graphic. Again, putting that will take time. Can you respond to the question without going to the graphic? Sorry, but you have to
Can
put
you
that
repeat the
laptop.
question again?
How do you delete data? E-commerce, there are rules clearly asking you to delete the data after 3 years of inactive user accounts.
Yeah, so I think secure deletion is the way, right? In terms of how you, as per the NIST standards, overall. Now, my major part there is, and of course, you have certain retention policies, and I think the biggest challenge there is what data to delete and what data not to delete or even keep, right? Overall. So, I think the secure deletion and industry is being very kind of conservative about that. Only
Mike,
is, I think making that decision is the most difficult part, right? One of that. And other thing is how you justify, right? How do you do assured deletion of the data, and how do you basically either prove it to regulator, or how do you prove
so
it to the end customer?
please introduce yourself. Samir, I know you, but for the rest of the audience, your startup.
Oh, I'm Samir, by the way. I run a small early stage company called Arden. We've been basically do all of this for almost like 3 years now. Yeah, but deletion is what I've been seeing over last few years. I get probably one query a year, right, overall, about the deletion. So I think biggest part is how many people will exercise. It will actually needed to be exercised. Uh, but once you call for a deletion, it has to be deleted. So the context of the law is to delete it, right? Of course, if there is a conflicting regulation where you have to store that for a long time, then absolutely you have to basically keep it for that purpose. But there has to be a life to your data, right? I think that's what the whole context of the regulation is. You cannot have like unlimited life for all data, right? Everybody is not basically indexing data of all internet all the time. That's what we see, and I think that's where we need to take care of that. Every data has piece of, or rather the has certain life, finite. It does not have infinite life, right? Except a few exceptions.
So you may get more requests from once in a year to multiple in a year. I, yeah, yeah. So
Hey guys, Deepak here, I'm from Skyflow. So not just e-commerce, we are seeing this problem across industries where they have to delete the data, but they have to keep the data for law and order purposes or any other legal lawful purposes. So, and the major problem we have seen enterprises, we in fact are working with one of the largest Indian e-commerce with 40 crore users. So, and across industries, the problem we are seeing is that the personal data do not sit in one place. They are in multitude of databases, logs, data lake, data analytics, AI models. So what we have been explaining them and they have been adopting is that if we can successfully isolate the personal data, just like how India has a Aadhaar data vault where you kind of put the Aadhaar in one place and only have reference tokens. This approach helps because now the data is in one place. And obviously to do that, we need to take care of scale, performance, nothing should break, and also make sure that the data that is tokenized or etc. is harmless for if it goes to the hands of a bad actor. If you take care of those engineering problems and you bring this data to one place, now it just becomes one single API called to delete it, and then that deleted data can be kind of going into like an archival vault, like how companies have archive systems. And then they are connecting this archival vault to just the legal officer or compliance officer if there is any criminal reasons, law and order reasons, if they have to review that. So that way they are able to kind of successfully do this.
So there is one more case I have. Yobilash already spoken, let others also speak. It's related to third-party risk management. Almost this is my third session in the day, and everywhere this question is being asked. how do you deal with third parties, and today the scenario is more about not just, that there is increasing presence of IoT environment, right? And you are working in a platform ecosystem, you're talking about joint fiduciaries, right? Not just your contractors or outsourced vendors, but multiple parties coming together. So how do you deal with third-party risk management in different formats of the data? How do you use privacy? Please go ahead. Please introduce yourself. It's on. You switched off probably. You can speak now. It's okay, we can hear.
Hello. Yeah. So what question which you asked is about third party and vendors coming across where you can where you have to share data, which Srini also handled. One way of doing it, wherein we can have multi-party operations kind of approach, which we can take it across in this. But the way how organization works across is there are multiple things and there are different applications which they work on. Okay? So there are, just giving a simple example of a marketing application. Okay? So the marketing automations are all cloud-based automations, which we would be doing right now. If we get a lead on our website and we wanted, that lead gets dropped, we get the data with us. Now what we do with this data, we don't have any kind of consent, or we don't have, or maybe they might have given a consent to store this data, but we don't have, we wanted to reach out to them. Now when we do a reach out, nowadays we reach out with multiple channels. We reach out by an email, WhatsApp, phone, a lot of things which we reach out over there. When we give this data to a cloud provider or a cloud hosted solution, which is a marketing platform, it again increases the risk of the organization who is selling data to them. Okay. So how we can do this is, of course, creating a identifiable information, which Abhilash was saying, where we will be able to create this data, share across the leads which are there, but not sharing the PII information. Sharing across this to the data, we get the computations done across, payloads created from there, and then that can be then come across and shared across to the actually delivery providers. Without the PII information, which is associated PII information. So you put across this data and without changing your, without compromising on your transaction per second. So you do a heavy transaction per second with this kind of an approach, wherein you disengage the PII information from the actual data and process the data. That's how which we do it across the largest insurance company.
Thank you so much. One more question, coming from healthcare sector. In healthcare, you do a lot of diagnostic and you do image scanning. How do you anonymize that data? Anyone who would like to take this question? Yeah, Abhilash.
Yeah, that's fine. So healthcare has very specific requirements, for example, HIPAA privacy rule, and they have very clear requirements of expert determination anonymization in HIPAA privacy rule. You have K anonymity, T closeness, differential privacy defined. And similarly, Article 29 Working Party of GDPR clearly speak about anonymization techniques, and they also mention how to measure it in terms of singling out linkage inference attacks and what are the residual risks of each of these scenarios and which technology mitigates which risk. So that is categorized. So accordingly, when we anonymize the data, it gives, and today it is being done manually in a lot of places.
Abhilash, just
Yes,
correction. I think you're talking about structured data. He's talking about images.
Yes.
We're not talking of structured data, no.
So, so in images, it's a very different thing where you can use models, and models can create, it depends upon the output, what you want. So if you want training of model. Let's say you have images and you want to train models on, let us say, tumor, right? In brain cells, things like those. Then you can do things like federated learning. You can do differential privacy in the learning process, and you can create either, it can be a generational model with differential privacy. So it can generate images of similar nature, which is similar utility is retained. Or if it is relatable models, or if it is an image generation kind of a visual model, then similarly those can also have differential privacy in stochastic gradient descent. So both are possible.
Thank you so much, Abhilash. Next question comes from, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
So just want to add a perspective there, right? I ran the data security and privacy for the healthcare. Just want to add a quick point to the healthcare one, because that's near and dear to my kind of wheelhouse, because we used to do this with the HIPAA authority, which is HHS and CMS. So practical problem we get into that is for the patient care, right? So the biggest challenge there, and just for everyone, is you got to give patient care, so you have to relate that data, right? So how much you disassociate, right? It's basically for storage and it's fine. And what would happen is you try to basically implement, right, anonymization, and the application will fail in production because you can't get any sense out of it, right, overall. So I think we just need to be careful little bit about when we factor. I mean, absolutely, we are all paid group here. But I think there has to be the kind of
Utility,
balance, balance between how far we go in that, right? I mean, ideally, yes, nothing should be relatable, linkable, but practically it really becomes difficult when we actually do the production use cases of that.
So the other use cases, we are a car OEM, and we have a device which fits into the car, which monitors health of the car as well as the driver behavior. We also share the data with insurance companies for defining the premium. The data is captured by various sensors. There is some edge computing also happens. So how would paid be used in this scenario? Yeah, I think, yeah.
I'll answer this question because we do an IoT security kind of piece over there. So when we have an IoT device on field, okay, what we do in IoT security piece is we register the device with a certificate. We also give the device with a key pair over there and encryption keys over there, okay. The use case which you have, like there is an insurance data, okay, and then there is maybe the sensor data which is there. There is a person who is associated with that particular device or those kind of things, and then there are multiple activities which is happening over there. When we use this security certificates and the keys which are being used across in this device, using this, we will be able to encrypt the data. One is encrypting, or we would be able to even tokenize the data, whichever way we wanted to do it on this particular fields. When we do this activity, of course, we have to run some processing over there on top of this particular devices. When it goes across to the third party, so when the data is being there at the edge device itself being protected, and when it goes across to the IEEE platform or command center kind of thing, when the data goes over there, first the device authenticates itself. It gives the identity with the PKI authentication over there. Here we can also add the quantum PQC based PQI also with the quantum threads. And then once it is authenticated, then it would be able to put across to a correct system what exactly that data means. So we will segregate data and then we'll put across in the system. So this would make sure the identity of the person is not revealed, but whatever information which that provider needs to get it, they will be able to get the information out of this. That's how is there.
I think Priya, Pooja, yeah.
Use case. Hi, I'm Pooja from IFI. And so I have a use case, a follow-on question to what use case you gave. So is this sharing of data even lawful to begin with?
So I'm covering here very narrowed the scope. I'm not going to procedural compliance at this moment. Okay, I can discuss and you can talk about your product on consent management, but I am currently focusing only on paid So I don't want to go, otherwise it will be a very big, long discussion, right?
Just one next question is, if we do anonymize this data to and send it to an insurance company, would the company actually be able to use it? Because an insurance is a highly personalized product. So if they do get anonymized data, would that data be of any use if they can't bring it back to me as an individual?
He wants to respond to that question.
So it's not about anonymization. So anonymization is one way, if you wanted to do it. It's about how we do a cost process with the insurance company. It's about establishing within the insurance company. So we can have a tokenization approach, which can have a format preserving encryption along with it, which can go to, which only can insurance company can understand. Okay, nobody else can understand this. Okay,
Only
that's
security.
how it can be taken.
It is secure way of transferring.
No,
See,
I-
tokenization is something we talk, now I agree, what you're saying is, where you need data, you need data. You can't, right? You had something, Mohit. Mohit, please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Mohit from Pivot. So we actually faced this problem. We were working with an insurance and a car company, in 2010s. So ultimately, the solution that came out that this was not legal, and insurance companies started coming up with their own devices rather than getting the data from a car manufacturer. They started offering incentives to the companies or to the customers who put the device into the cars, and that's how they were collecting the data. So I think it's a question about purpose limitation rather than.
Right. Thank you so much. So, एक minute. अभी एक last question, then open to floor. You want to discuss. One question that has been very prominently being asked, especially those people who are staying in the hotels very frequently, आधार कार्ड देना पड़ता है. What is the way? You have the solution? It has to be a solution.
I don't have a solution, but Aadhaar itself has come up with a solution.
How many of you know? Very few.
So Aadhaar app has been launched.
Huh.
Aadhaar has come up with a solution, which is one of the use cases with this hotel use case, where they wanted to share the data. So there is a scanner again. So hotel would have a scanner, Aadhaar app would have a scanner, and whatever information you wanted to share, you have the control on the Aadhaar app. And that is again verifiable way it has been shared. That's Aadhaar, not mine, but Aadhaar use case.
Thank you. It's not your solution, but Aadhaar has come up with the solution. Happy to know about that.
So
But I won't see it deployed at the hotels. Anyone, please let me know.
So my view on this is that, that depends on the context. So sometimes you require only to prove a particular thing that, okay, am I above 18 or but other times you need to preserve the identity. The former ZKP will work. The later it will not work. But
Partial
you need to,
ZKP.
security is important
Yeah.
then.
Partial you can.
I have a question.
Yeah, you're a paid provider or a deployer?
General question. Hi.
No, wait. First, let's take general questions.
Later.
Let us focus on first page. You had Bhavna had a case. I'm sorry, Bhavna, put you on hold for such a long time.
Great, but that's okay. Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
So whatever Prasad asked is based upon the lots of communications we have had in the past with our privacy industry.
Perfect, great, thank you. I'm Bhavna Longani and I'm from Axis Max Life Insurance, the DPO there. So my question is, I think it might be applicable for a lot of people in the industry as well. Call center, so call center where we have to share the data with the call center through a dialer or the CRM. And they will have a visibility to the PI as well, because for the verification purposes as well, for a business like ours. Now, is there any pet, that we can deploy, or the only way I will have to, protect my organization is through a DPA?
I think largely it is about security. The pet
Right.
required is on security.
Right.
Because probably you cannot ensure minimization, the data is required for KYC.
Absolutely, multiple reasons are there. So is there any privacy enhancing technology that can be deployed for the call center, or we just rely on the security and the contractual obligation?
It's a very important question. What is important is, while we do encryption, as Srini said, connecting to consent is more important. Because in call center, user would withdraw consent sometimes, and then the call should not happen. So the control should be integrated with consent, and it should flow together, and this control should happen. So you should ensure that the cryptographic control and the consent based control both are integrated.
So here,
It should be rephrased because the question was when you're sharing with your call center, at that point in time, what you can do. The question is not about consent,
Consent.
and everything. That processes are on the fiduciary side. When you're giving to somebody who's a cab service provider, I might have traveled to an event and then a cab is booked, my number and my email ID number or phone name is shared. That point in time. So I guess that was the question. So let's rephrase. Come correct.
I have to share the data for the purpose.
Right.
Anybody else also
Right,
answer.
right. So there is somebody else who will take it. See, क्या है ना, हमको क्रिकेट आता है तो फुटबॉल का डिस्कशन में हम क्रिकेट पे लेके आते हैं, right? So let's go beyond consent. I've been saying this. I want very specific answers. If you have a solution, then it's okay. Otherwise, we will live with that problem for
In
now.
the very best interest of the time, we should do like 10-second question,
Yes,
10-second answer.
yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
it's getting boring.
Yes.
Like the Uber kind of use case, okay? If you say the cab driver, so cab driver knows your name, but if he calls, it is they don't know the person.
but he needs address. Address you cannot know. How do you protect the address? Auto delete or basically address is required, right? Address is.
No. All so-called, we've invested 20 minutes listening to all of you who are here to offer answers, offer solutions. Come up with a solution. No?
Right.
Not another example somewhere.
Wait, guys, I think we are just making it unnecessarily complex. So your question was, my call centers need to see their social security number, Aadhaar, whatever it is, correct? And how do I avoid that? For purposes, right? So don't you have the just masking and you can sue the last force or something? That's what I do every day. Huh?
You will have to go to the verification. You have to do that. You need to know because there is other use case as well where I have to give the PI.
So you need to read the full number, right? So what solution do you expect there? I mean, you have to show. You are not ready to check the last four because see, I just called HDFC Bank for my KYC verification. To verify me, they just say that I'm gonna send you a prompt of last four of your debit or something. That's the same process you can follow.
What happens in case of the investigations? When you do investigation, then I have to give the complete data.
So then there you have a purpose, right?
Right. I think, yeah. I think they.
Purpose is, I'm not saying the purpose is a problem. Is there a technological solution
Which can
available?
solve.
Is what the question is.
Right.
Currently, I think, I mean, when it comes to verification specifically, right? So
For all
now
the
we
pet
have
providers,
machine.
you have to do KYC, know your customer. You are deviating from your customer. That's what I'm witnessing here.
No, specifically, okay, I mean, okay, other than KYC, especially when you call and you want to verify, right, and for a card block, for a replacement card, or anything for the purpose, right? So I think today we don't inform to the person on the call over the call. So basically, today we input it into the system. I mean, for example, if they ask me to enter my Aadhaar number, I press it on my mobile, okay, and that gets onto the person who's on the call will not see it. They'll only see whether the inputted information is validated or not. For example, if it's asked for my date of birth for verification purposes, I inputted it on my mobile, right, in the keypad. So they will see whether it is verified or not. They don't see or they don't listen to the actual data. I think that has been solved to an extent, but then it's probably not adopted everywhere. So
That was at least something closer to what you were expecting. Anything? So yeah, that's a different conversation. Okay, if there are no other questions, I will hand it over to Deepa for next session. Anything else? We have open anything? Any other questions?
More questions.
Specific question and specific response.
I have a fun question. We talked about like 1 hour per beds, right? What about, so I come from the quantum capital, right, which is in Maryland, you search it up, Ion Cube and buy some shares, right, because it's coming. It's called Ion Cube, I'll send you a NASDAQ code later. So when the quantum comes and they are saying, right, 2030, right, 2030 is the time when it will do the elliptical curve or RSA kind of, right? Where were all this encryption, PET technology, right? What if it goes in the toilet? You talked about quantum safe, right? But I have a disclaimer there. But what's a new approach, right? I don't do right now the anonymization mask or whatever, right? So this is not at all like we provide something. But what I'm saying is what we all gonna do, right? If that in 2028 and 2030 is not very far. So anybody got a good question?
If we have really want to do justice to 9 more minutes or 11 more minutes,
I agree to that response. There is a quantum sub summit happening. This can be discussed there.
Yeah, any questions, Abha, PLF leaders who are sitting over here? Aditya, I've got your chance. Like maybe somebody else.
Question in 10 second
And
answer.
since rapid fire round, maybe like. And if we don't have the solutions right now, let's accept we don't have the solutions and we can work on those problem statements. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sharad Srivastav. Actually, my question is slightly different on that. Whatever we are talking about the privacy here, it's when the data is in use, right? And there is a very heavy risk when the data is not in use, okay? What are we going to do on that? Actually, is there anything coming up? I mean, we do have a solutions on that, on erasers and all this thing, but it should be part of some pet somewhere, actually, or it should be part of the regulation that when the data is not needed, you need to complete system drive has to be erased because if you go to Kabaddi market, 70% of the drive will have all this PI data. Okay, so
so for data, so
Any other question?
Right. And I agree with that. This is what we want to do. You are asking what we are already asking people.
Hi, I'm Neha Bakshi from SBI Cards. If somebody can share a story on the operational part of the data deletion, so what can be taken as a baseline for this data? Will it be the data
Can we have pointed questions, please? No stories, just the problem statement. One-liner problem statements.
When I said a story, yeah. Okay. ठीक है. Thank you.
No. And being a consent management product, you should know it.
That's a nice question, actually.
One quick question. So,
Abha?
What is the roadmap that we are looking at for marketing going forward? Considering it becomes consent-based, consent withdrawn, you cannot do it. Now, what I intend to is that I don't want to know who you are, but I want to sell my product. Is there a way that I can still reach out to you without knowing who you are? And is there a way that you will still have the visibility of seeing without knowing that I have any access to your data? I don't want your data, but I want to reach out to you.
Not today. That's a really good question. Yeah, I have a 10-second answer, but the Uber ads and the Facebook ads we see, they don't know who you are.
But that's targeted, no? They know at what time Deepa leaves from my home, yeah. That's targeted.
it is still pseudonymous. They know without name.
Team, please note this problem statement. Pets would have to work on this problem to find answers to this, yeah. Any
Hi,
other
I'm
question?
Dr. Raghuveer Kaur. I have a simple question. For a SaaS product companies, in general, if we are a SaaS-based product company, what should be the basic spec that could be generalized and could be scalable for everyone?
Pets providers, any answers?
They're a SaaS company and they want to know what are the expectations from them.
Yeah,
and which pet can answer all their problems?
Companies,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of budget to spend on SaaS for PET products. So what
You are
should be the
also not loyal to
scalable?
them. Every year you change the subscription.
So in the rules, there are like.
That's
Yeah.
not PET. Not PET, but I'm looking for PET specific.
So.
It is rather getting difficult at 10
That-
seconds. That's the baseline.
So PII, you can do pseudonymization. If you have to be if you have to do re-identification, then
Let's
pseudonymization.
do B2B. How do you suggest?
No, it is use case, right? If you have to do re-identification, then pseudonymization, continuous processing, then statistical patch.
Most of the people don't even want to know whether it is pseudonymization or anonymization. You talk to DPOs, they say solution क्या है, कौन सा product है, give me this. Whether you are using K anonymity, Z anonymity, they know this, they should be aware about this. But they want something which can be digested through products.
Which is practical, precisely.
Exactly. They want to digest it, and if we are not ready for it, then better be prepared.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
I didn't get the answer actually.
Probably we can discuss. I told the answer.
So that's not practical. I mean, how many access will I maintain in getting the data pseudonymized? And
No, we can.
You know what the problem would be there
So
when
you-
I'm
You need to actually ask a specific problem area. So it's too broad question. Then the answers can come easily.
Okay, give me 2, 3 good practical PTs that can go with any form of SaaS product, which is small scale, not willing to invest too much in money. Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Very quick, 10 seconds, right? You know, when I was working at Ubuntu, almost all of these SaaS infrastructure players started offering confidential computing instances. They also started offering distributed computing instances. That's all what you can use, but that's... Yes, I mean, I understand it's expensive, but it's the solution.
Disturb your workflow, and it is an agent. Okay, it does not disturb. It does all activities and protects your PII information without disturbing your workflow. Okay, neither doing anything on your database, neither thing. It's an agent which rides on your application load, and it would encrypt all the PII information in your database. And it is encrypted throughout its lifetime. It is only decrypted in your application, not at the database level.
So that won't restrict the right to make any modification.
Nothing.
I think we have 3 minutes more. Any questions?
You can do an API level that can be solved, where it can sit as a proxy and it can solve the same problem.
Yes, I agree. I think I still see now. I'm seeing the question marks on this side. Earlier it was this side, pets provider. Now I can see most of this side.
Just one question. I think so. Dr. Bharat Saraf from PhonePe. So as a DPO at the programmatic level, want to understand, especially from the pets provider, right? We have talked about different pets and what they can do and how they can help us. But as a DPO, just want to understand, I mean, in your privacy journey, we have got 18 months implementation timeline. So how do you plan to go about pets? Is it, I mean, adding to the question about the financial and the budgeting part of it, right? How do you start pitching to the board that pets is important right from the privacy by design stage as you start implementing DPDP? That's one, in an organization internally. Second, is the ecosystem ready for that, right? Because we may convince our board with various advantages that we have, but is the ecosystem ready to accept pets? Because if we are dealing with insurers, if we are dealing with lenders, if we are dealing with third parties who do not have a privacy program in place, how are we going to look at that maturity curve and that maturity phase and thinking more from a DPO standpoint, if somebody can throw light on that?
Bharat, your question is like going to a doctor and saying that, what medicine can you give me? You tell the problem. A plethora of medicines are there. So you need to look at your business context. What risks are you foreseeing which you can't accept? Those problems specifically the pet guys can answer. That's my view. But anyone has an answer?
Sure.
All pet providers are calling me for last 3 years, man. So 18 months is not the right time frame. They know, but I think I just want to add a little bit there. I think pet is like we do over term, kind of. So anything which enhances or implements your privacy should be pets, right? That's our definition of pets, right? It should not be only about anonymization. I think we are solving, or rather we need to solve very fundamental problem where your data is, right, overall. So I think unless that is sorted out, I don't think law is saying that if you don't implement pet tomorrow, you got 250 crore, right? What it is saying is you do reasonable security measures. Yeah, and Vikas is agreeing, right now. So I think 18 months we're gonna do very fundamental things at least for next year or so. So as long as basically you do step 1, 2, and Vikas, I know you cannot basically necessarily just give one guideline that hey, this is done and overall. But I think we're gonna go through journey, right? I don't think anybody has, even we talk about homomorphic encryptions and stuff like that. How many implementations, man? I haven't seen any.
In the interest of time, we all know that there is a journey, and there is a journey. Last 2 years you had till that level. Why didn't you build something? I can also ask these questions. But nevertheless, I think
Prasad,
we can conclude the...
I have one.
Suresh, tell us.
Yeah, I'm Suresh. So one question, we spoke about the insurance part, right? So insurance companies sharing the information about the driver's behavior. That probably becomes more personalized because you are trying to share an individual driver's behavior. let's say if the insurance company wants to monetize the data that they have about, saying, or the automotive company wants to monetize the data that they have about the driving behavior, if they are able to unlock the power of data by putting an anonymization around that, and then they are selling it to insurance company for pricing of products based on the age group of this particular one is driving behavior is this, then it will help them in product pricing accordingly, where the automotive company is able to unlock the power of data and monetize the data, whereas it's also helping the insurance company to have some objective-based pricing. The same case can go with even medical.
So yeah, so the
right?
business case is done. Business case, no, we know that.
No, because
pets,
what we were talking about pets.
Yeah, how
because
to use pets,
biggest
that's the
challenge
question.
is we are not able to articulate the value of investment to the board. Whereas when you're able to articulate saying by putting a pet, I will be able to unlock the power of data, which is what the business wants, and you're able to provide a business case for that, I think you will be able to get that. I think it's about each industry, what we are trying to solve, how we are able to unlock the power of data. That's what the business is going to listen to, right? So I think that's where we have to look at it. Rest of the case is okay, it's about concern management and all those kind of things anyway falls into place.
Thank you so much, Suresh. I think that was a very constructive approach, saying that, how you build your business case, given his experience, extensive experience in healthcare as a DPO as well as a CISO.
I think it's a full circle because I started with this point that don't look for a module solution which will say what is on offer. Because I started with this very point that you first go and read the fundamental pets, and because you know your business, because you know what you want to derive out of data, and then see what you can fit, because you know that more than any pet provider, they may feel bad about it, but you know what your business wants, and if you know some basics, and then you can see who can solve it better at L1 levels. So price is also taken care of.
So I think, thank you so much, Vikas. With that, I think.
So I think there are lots of problems. Like as a team, we also created some slides, but I think most of the questions have already been taken up. If you still have some privacy problem, which pet companies who are still evolving in this journey can answer, please write your problem statements to policy@dsci.in. We have an upcoming data protection summit wherein we'll try to address all those problems and we'll see if pet solutions have those answers. And Vikas so rightly said, this is a journey which is evolving. We'll have technologies evolving in some sense, and there, I think this was the intent of the session altogether, to like bring together all of you and DSCi as a facilitator, start having you these sort of conversation. We'll shall take this conversation forward, but really thank you for showing up today late evening in the jam and traffic, whatever not, but it was a really pleasant session. I know like it's a lot to discuss, but please write your policies, problem statements to policy@dsci.in. We'll surely take it into account and we'll reach out to you with the answers, or reach out to Pet Solution to start developing products with that. And at the end, I would like to give a small vote of thanks also to my team, of course, like to help me throughout this journey. My PLF leaders, so DSCi has started this initiative of DPOs who are like helping us bringing out awareness in the ecosystem, which Vikas sir that said that is the need of the hour. So our DPO community is helping us have that conversations, candid conversations, start about talking implementation journey, and that too in their personal capacities, of course. Prasad for coming in between and helping us with the use case and simulation exercise that we had in the room, and Meeti for all their guidance and support throughout the journey, that how we can start this conversation, that how DPDP law, which is in now force, can be implemented across the sector. So as a government has not left us alone. It is holding hands throughout this journey so that we can make the DPDP implementation easier for the country. So thank you all, and please have your dinner.
Couple of announcements. So first thing is, we'll continue this discussion in Feb at DSCi Data Protection Summit. We'll have a track on this, not just paid, but consent also. A lot of people are asking quick consent. We are very consent heavy law. Secondly, so we have various training programs. We have for data protection officers, we have for auditors, data auditors, that's law, DCPLA, DCDPO. One more program we have launched, and especially in your enterprise, you would find it difficult putting all the responsibility on your DPO. I think we also now launched a program called the DSCi Privacy Champions, privacy for non-privacy professionals. So your HR, your marketing, sales department, where they will also contribute to your DPI exercise, IT teams, So it's a one-day intervention certification program. We are doing it with Privacient. So do access this program. We are already communicating on LinkedIn and other channels. Look forward to your participation in that as well. Thank you so much.
Last 1 minute, because I always want something to take away. So I thought we have spent 1.5 hours. Simple takeaway, not marketing DSCi, but when I was student, almost passed. So 2010, they come up with data privacy framework. So it's a very interesting black-green color book. I remember that as, so that's one textbook. And a very interesting nudge which I would like to leave with. Because, see, I was thinking how, because at the end, the question came very mature question. So the discussion somehow brought at the end a very logical thing. So thank you for that, sir. And what I was thinking was, yesterday I was explaining somebody who was explaining me about some heart attack to a neighbor. So I just realized that now people don't leave it on doctors. They themselves become doctors. So in the similar fashion, you have to get your hands dirty. Try to understand what PET is, try to understand what it is, and to start that journey, I would say just Google what is Yao's milliners problem. So that will be your starting point. So I'm seeing this journey of DPDP, of PET companies, of PET open source offering, trying to bring that in education system, trying to proliferate that, working with OECD, working with GPA, where there is another evolved concept. He said, bring out something from your GPA Korea experience. So there, regulators are talking of pseudonymization versus anonymization. So we will also mature there, but start with Yao's problem and bring some problems, solutions will come. Thank you so much.